Hello, we are Oren, a collective conscious and cyborg sent by a higher civilization to warn humans of the incoming apocalypse. It is an honor to meet the one humans call Neil deGrasse Tyson. As a world-renowned astrophysicist, scientist, author, actor, philosopher, and overall cultural icon, please introduce yourself, including but not limited to name, hometown, favorite color, and what started your scientific journey.
Well, I'm flattered that you would list acting as one of my attributes because I've seen myself act, and I'd put that last on my list of what I do well. But I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm an astrophysicist with the American Museum of Natural History right here in New York City. And one of the great gatherings of humans on the planet are the nearly 9 million people who live in 5 counties, the only city, I think, that's bigger than its own counties. A city that contains 5 counties. I live in one of those counties, Manhattan. And it is in Manhattan where I visited for the first time a planetarium. I was 9, the Hayden Planetarium, where I saw the night sky. It's a night sky that no New Yorker sees because of light pollution back then, because I'm an old man. There was much more air pollution. Buildings are tall. We just do not have a relationship with the night sky. You walk into a planetarium, and with a round ceiling, as a kid, that was odd, right? A round ceiling, and there's a big machine in the middle, and it recreates the universe in ways that just were stupefying. And for me, I was starstruck. So and now I'm director of that very same planetarium. So yeah, so it's an interesting arc of life. My favorite color is purple, and which is a lighter version of the color of your walls, which is in the same spectrum that would include pink, as I've been able to judge. I think there's not enough purple in the world.
Agreed.
When you see purple, I think you just want to smile. But then I wondered, philosophically, if everything were purple, would I no longer appreciate it and grow accustomed to it? And I'd be then longing for some other color.
Yes.
So I think I answered all your questions there.
You did. Thank you very much, Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. As a native New Yorker, we both understand the hidden wonders of the Big Apple. Please tell us a hidden gem in New York that not many people know about, but you enjoy visiting. This could be a shop, a park, or a restaurant, or a combination of the sorts. Thank you.
Excellent. You being a collective conscious cyborg, presumably some part of that collective conscious knows New York and has experienced it. That's why you worded it that way. I like the ceiling of Grand Central Terminal. So colloquially, it's called Grand Central Station, but it's not really a station. A station is a stop along a route.
Yes.
Like Pennsylvania Station, Penn Station is actually a station because trains can come through there and continue moving from south of New York to north of New York on to Boston and even to Maine. Grand Central Terminal, all trains going to Grand Central Station stop there and turn around and go back. So hence it's officially Grand Central Terminal. The ceiling has stars on it, some of which are glow in the dark. And it's fascinating to just go and watch people walk along the floor with this canopy of stars above them. The New Yorkers, who are all jaded, who forgot to look up, none of them are looking up. They got to get their train and their head is down and there they are and they're walking. Whereas tourists, they've heard about this and they come in to look up and they've got their cameras and they're looking up. And so every now and then I think to myself, I want to go down on the floor, yell out to everyone, stop, look up. Someone tried to put the night sky over your head. Some artist, in conjunction with an architect, thought about this. All right, pause and reflect on the beauty and majesty of the night sky that's not otherwise touching you in any other way. So that's a not so hidden gem. Right? It's hidden in plain sight. So that's one. 2, there is, I don't know if it's still there during COVID, I haven't checked. There's a tiny little shop in Pennsylvania Station that sells neckties. and other sort of novelty neckties, as well as ordinary neckties. You need a yellow necktie. You can buy a yellow necktie. Most of the neckties they sell are novelty, and it's called what are they called? They're called Tycoon. That's what it's called. Very clever name, Tiecoon. And I would say half of my neckties that are novelty, that have the universe on them, are purchased there. No matter what your interest, there's a tie with that on it. And if you wear ties, you will know that there aren't many other ways you can express your individuality if you wear clothing that goes with ties. But the tie becomes, they also have cufflinks. And so that's a little hidden gem for me. And I would say, lastly, at the risk of sounding self-serving, I would say the Hayden Planetarium itself. It is a gem in the city. If you want to reconnect with the night sky, that's how to do it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Next time we go to Grand Central, we will be sure to look up.
Look up. That's all it takes. Just there it is.
As a man of taste, what sort of music do you consume? Do you believe music has certain oral healing properties which connects humans on a vibrational or subconscious level?
Great question. So first, I don't think music to humans is unique among species. We speak commonly of bird songs. Maybe they're just talking to each other, but the way it can be melodic, I would perfectly happy to call it song. When I hear Portuguese spoken, I don't know Portuguese, but I hear the diphthongs roll off the tongue of the people speaking. To me, that rests on my ear as song. Okay, so maybe the birds are just saying, hey, you're going to get pizza later, I'll meet you. Maybe it's just ordinary conversations. I'm happy to call it song. We speak of whales communicating as whale songs. Again, maybe they're just speaking perfunctory things to one another, but it lands on our ear as song. So I will not say that humans are unique. By the way, anytime you want to say humans have some unique feature in the entire animal kingdom, generally it's not unique. Generally, because there are things we say just to separate ourselves, to elevate ourselves from the rest of the animals. But I don't see people making the list of things that other animals do better than we do. Okay? Wow. Condors fly, all right, without any technology. And they probably pity us because we're walking far underfoot beneath them. You say, but we have airplanes. Yeah, but it took, we've had airplanes for 117 years out of the hundreds of thousands of years we've been human. So don't, just before you start boasting about that. Newts can regenerate limbs, all right? Do they pity us who can't? All right, so where's the list of things we don't do uniquely or that we don't do at all that other animals do much better than we do? So that's my first entry point into that comment. Second, I think drums do resonate with a heartbeat. And I'm old enough to fully remember the disco era where percussion was a fundamental part of the creativity of that genre. All right, there was, if not the drums, the bongos, it was a major, and there was a point where the singer would stop singing and would just be a percussive interval, okay? And that's where the solo dancers would get out on the floor and do their thing. There's a point my wife highlighted for me. If you look at the rate at which those beats unfold, it's anywhere between 60 and 80 drum beats a minute. Well, that's the human heartbeat. So if the drum were going 1,000 beats per minute, you wouldn't hear it as that. It would just be this hum. If it was 200 heartbeats a minute, it would just sound like a rattling. If it was 30 heartbeats a minute, it'd be too slow and uninteresting. So there's some biophysiological correspondence between the beats we embrace and what is a native heartbeat to us. So I don't think that's an accident or coincidence. Now, the rest of music, yeah, we like music. We like making music. We like moving our body in response to music. That's just an interesting fact. If there was an alien species, you might know some of them, who have no sense of hearing, they would have no music. And there's a quote from Nietzsche which I've never forgotten, which is those who were dancing were judged insane by those who could not hear the music. And so just think about it. You've seen people through a glass window and they're just sort of wailing their arms back and forth. If you didn't hear the music on the other side, you say, what's wrong with them? Oh, it's just a party. All right. But if you didn't know they were actually responding to an auditory stimulus, you'd think they were all insane and you'd want them committed somehow. So, yeah, we respond. Now, the fact that we respond to this vibrational energy moving through the air, hitting our eardrums, interacting with our brain, encouraging us to move. By the way, that itself is not unique. The internet is full of parrots who hear a beat or other birds and they start shaking their head,
Correct.
like left and right. They're hearing, and I've seen cats and dogs do this. So we're not the only ones who want to move to the beat of the music. Other species do this as well. I don't know if they're trained to do it, but they do it in rhythm to the music. So it's not just an act of moving. It's responsive to external stimulus. So now, is there some sound energy connecting us all? Highly unlikely. I would just simply say no, because you can measure how much energy sound carries, and it deadens very quickly. If it didn't deaden, you would hear your echo in a room for hours later, and you don't. Okay? So to believe that there's some sound energy permeating all of the land and that we're all tapped into it would imply that there's a sound energy loud enough for you to measure and hear and know that it's there, and there isn't. So I'm not buying into some connective sound consciousness that we all resonate to. I think I answered all your questions there.
You did. Thank you very much, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Okay.
We'll proceed to the next question.
Go for it.
You have a YouTube show called StarTuck, which explains space, science, and theoretical concepts. What is your relationship to social media and what made you start this channel? What sort of YouTube or TikTok content do you enjoy watching?
Yeah, so thanks for that. That's a good shout out for Star Talk. It's a podcast. It spent 3 seasons on television, actually, and was nominated for an Emmy on each of those seasons for best informational programming. And 2 of those seasons we lost to Anthony Bourdain. May he rest in peace. Maybe you see him out there in your collective cosmic consciousness. So we're going to lose to that for his Parts Unknown, I think. It was a cooking show, but cooking and food with related to culture and human behavior. So it's an exploration of all the ways science touches our lives. So it's not just space for space sake. It's science as it infuses everything you do. Even if you think it doesn't, we explore how it does. So that's Star Talk. Social media, for me, that's another thing. Yeah, it's all going out there on the internet, but social media as an organized thing, I guess I have to say I'm active in social media, but I post maybe 5 tweets a week, maybe 2 Facebooks a week, 1 Instagram a week. That people are way more posty than I am. But I have a very large Twitter following, and every morning I wake up, I say, "What? Do they know they're following an astrophysicist?" I have to hit myself and ask, how did this happen? But it must mean they like the content, and I try to be humorous. I try to bring a smile to people's face. I try to get them to think. Okay, as a collective cyborg consciousness, I don't know what your circulatory system is, but I posed a question one day on Twitter, and it blew people's minds, apparently. I was sitting at a red light in my car, and I said, well, why do we stop at the color red and go forward at the color green? Why isn't it the reverse of that? What's going on here? And it occurred to me, of course, blood is red. And blood, you don't want blood. So blood, stop. And nature is green. And so I thought maybe that's probably it. But then I thought, Spock on Star Trek has copper for his hemoglobin, for his in his circulatory system rather than iron. And iron turns red when exposed to oxygen. Oxygenated blood is red. Okay, it's accounting for most of why your blood is red. If you have copper carrying the oxygen, Your blood is green. Spock has green blood. Crustaceans have green blood because they have copper doing the same thing that's happening in Vulcans. So I thought if we had copper instead of iron, our blood would be green. What color would the stoplight be then? I compressed all that into a 140 character tweet back when that was the character limit, and it blew people. Oh my gosh, mind blown! I don't. And so I thought, wow, people enjoy thinking about the world through a scientific lens, and so that's been my goal, and that's basically what I post on my social media.
Thank you. You're very entertaining on social media, and we follow you on all platforms.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
We'll proceed to the next question.
Go for it.
We recently watched the 1997 film Event Horizon, where space explorers use a black hole to travel into an alternate dimension. Since black holes create a rift in time and space, do you believe it is possible to use black holes as a means of travel? If so, is it possible that other entities or objects have already entered this reality by such means? By this definition, is it safe to conclude that anything is possible since all of these different realities are connected by means of black holes and irregularities which are constant?
Great question. And that movie, I didn't actually see that movie. I saw the trailer for that movie, and I think I began it and then did not finish it because I was called away. But thanks for reminding me of that film. Isn't our guy from the movie?
Yes.
What's his name? Morpheus. I think he's in that movie, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
But anyhow, so the more refined concept of a black hole being a portal between universes is simply a wormhole. Okay? A wormhole distorts the fabric of space and time just as a black hole does, except when you enter it, it doesn't crush you to an infinitesimal point. You go through and come out on the other side. So the black hole concept, as invoked in that film, in an updated sense of it, would be a wormhole. And around this, the wormhole concept existed at that time. I don't know why. Again, I have to see the movie before I would fully comment on it in this way. But in the movie Contact, which came out, I think, the very same year, if not 97, 96, the movie Contact, where we make contact with aliens, we send a scientist back to visit these aliens, Jodie Foster, and she basically travels through a wormhole. That's how you can cover vast distances in hardly any time and bypass the speed of light speed limit that exists across the universe. Because even though you are effectively traveling faster than light, you are cutting through a portal that bypasses the long route to get to where you're going. Fine. That's what's going on in a wormhole. So the question might be, would a wormhole connect the multiverse? Okay? Because we see what's going on in this universe. We haven't been everywhere, of course, but if you want real exotic things, it might be in another universe entirely. Could a wormhole, and I think in principle, yes, in principle. But, and if that's the case, then this becomes an interconnected system of tunnels where everything is connected. But if that's the case, then we should be able to see very different things popping in and out of existence routinely. And we don't. You being a cyborg of some higher consciousness, you are taking the form of a human, but why? Do something interesting. Take the form of something else. Okay, so even the Borg, they were sort of a humanoid form in the same size scale as humans. They would just be standing there. And I'd say, well, why aren't they microscopic? Why aren't they viruses of the size of a virus or the size of a galaxy? There's nothing in principle to stop this. There's some laws of physics that prevent it, but there's this range of size, even of life as we know it, is huge. So I think we would see odd things popping in and out all the time, and we're not. There's a famous poster. I think I saw it during the Science March 4 years ago. It says, "What do we want? A time machine. When do we want it? It doesn't matter." So, right. If you got a time machine, the when is removed from the equation because you make anything happen at any time. If that's the case, where are the people just showing up from the future? in their silver outfits because we are certain everyone in the future is wearing silver. Where are they? So so I'm skeptical that it exists or would ever exist. And one last thing about a wormhole, we know the physics of wormholes, but they're unstable. Everything about them tells us that they're unstable. So it takes a huge amount of effort just to keep it pried open so it doesn't collapse on you and kill you. So major thoroughfares of wormholes throughout the universe, it's not clear how to make that a practical reality.
Understood. Thank you very much. That was very insightful and educational. Thank you. We'll proceed to the next question now.
Go.
Now that we have introduced ourselves, we will now get into The Matrix. This show is called Welcome to the Matrix, and so of course we have to talk about the movie which inspired it all. Have you watched The Matrix? If yes, who is your favorite character and why is it noteworthy to talk about? Feel free to talk about Matrix theory and whether this plane is a simulation.
So you must know from the whatever homework you did on me that the Matrix is my favorite movie of all time.
Of course.
And I saw it in first run in movie theaters because that's how old I am. And I might have seen the movie about 20 times since then. And each time I pick up another little subtle point that I missed the previous time. And that's always a good fact about a film. That means the writers, the producers, the directors, the creative folks, the Wachowski sisters, they infused the storyline with layers and depth of intrigue that allows you to come back to it and just dig down the rabbit hole that's there. And by the way, when you see things that deeply, the movie becomes susceptible to seeing things that are to the discovery of things that are inconsistent. All right, and so those are always kind of fun to notice. Anyway, for a while, I didn't have a good argument for saying we don't live in a matrix. For a long while, I wish I could say we don't live in a matrix, but I can't. But now, speaking to some colleagues, reading a couple of books on this, doing some thinking of my own, I changed my mind. And I think it is unlikely we are living in a matrix. And I'm happy to share that with you. But just another brief note about the film. When I say it's my favorite movie, of course I'm talking about Matrix 1, not Matrix 2 or 3. Just make that clear. And I think, of course, the special effects, the visual effects, and my favorite character, I think it would have to be Trinity, because she was badass.
Yes.
Okay, I like women who can kick your ass. There's something about that. And who would have thought in a male-dominated world that would even become a genre? All right, but it is. It is. The Matrix is not the first time that has happened. Old timers will remember there was a show in England called The Avengers, nothing to do with Marvel, where there were two spies, and one of them was female, dressed in latex, spandex, whatever that material is, shiny black skin-tight material, and she knew martial arts and kicked ass. Okay? So for me, that was one of the earlier representations of this. Then there was Wonder Woman, of course. She probably even preceded that TV show. And there are others. And so what's the series where you have the vampire hunters?
Blade.
Say again?
Blade.
Oh, no, that's one of them. Blade is one of them. There's another one, Underworld, okay? And I think they're vampires, and there's some kind of creatures that are getting fought. Underworld, lead characters, woman who's kicking ass. So I'm kind of partial to that. And there she was, badass film. So I want to put that up there. Another character that I just kind of liked was the guy... I forgot his name. Was it not Switch? Switch was the woman. The guy who talked about whether the food they're eating is tasty wheat or whether it tastes like chicken.
Yes.
Okay. I forgot his name, but he's a minor character. But I like about him, he's a chatterbox, and on an annoying level, but he's not trying to annoy you. He just has a lot to say, and he wants to tell you, and he's smart, and he talk to share how smart he is. And so I empathize with people like that because the hip people and the cool people have no room for people like that in their lives. And so I have a soft spot for people who just want to tell you. And he programmed the woman in red, and he made sure to tell you that. All right. And so they're all programmers, of course, because they're hackers. But so I kind of like him as a minor character to flesh out the underbelly of what it is to be a geek.
That is a good point. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll proceed to the next question.
Okay.
In case you were not aware, Google leaked over 500,000 users' information due to a security breach on the Google Plus platform. This incident created a lawsuit where Google is being asked to pay $7.5 million to those affected. This breaks down into a maximum of $12 per claimant as an apology for allowing third parties access to private information we entrusted to Google. Did you hear about the Google settlement or receive the email from No Reply at Google? What do you think about tech companies having us sign away our digital rights with terms and conditions? And do you believe data is a human rights issue?
I think I can say yes to every one of those questions. No, I in a cursory way learned of the Google Plus problem. But that is not alone on the landscape of security breaches among institutions and entities that are entrusted to hold your most cherished forms of information, be they passwords or sensitive personal information that could be exploited by nefarious wrongdoers. So I think the real issue is buyer beware. If someone said this is completely safe and we have the key and it's safe, maybe you should approach that with some skepticism and not put your most precious information there. All right, so Google's not alone, and of course, $12 per person is not enough if you had a very serious security breach of very personal information that then was exploited by others. There've been credit card breaches. So I think the internet organizations have given us a false sense of security regarding the privacy of that information. And so I never had that much confidence in it. Personally, I keep very little on the cloud for that reason. If people want to see some photos I have on the cloud, fine. But otherwise, the cloud isn't, oh my gosh, I can put everything I own up on the cloud. And that way I don't have to carry around a 50 terabyte hard drive. No, I'm carrying around hard drives. Okay. That's just me personally, because I don't, maybe I'm behind the times and maybe it really is safe, and maybe it does require, it's encrypted in a way that it'll never, ever, ever, ever be, maybe. Okay. But I'm an old man, and I carry long memories, broken promises. So yeah. Oh, and by the way, yes, I think my father wrote on this. He was active in the civil rights movement back in the 1960s, and he saw when companies gathering information about you and then using that information. And he wrote it's basically an op-ed on the fact that we should not only own our information but control our information. And if you want access to the information, you have to pay for it in a very explicit way.
Yes.
Of course, Facebook's answer to that is, well, you voluntarily told us who all your friends are, and what your phone number is, and what your home address is, and what city you live in, and what your favorite movies are, and your favorite color, and what schools you went to. You voluntarily handed all of us this. And we know because you're telling us what your favorite videos are. And so we're going to now sell that to advertisers. All right. I wish they were more obvious about that. The takeaway is if you're using a service for free, it's not really free. Did you pay to use Facebook? Did you pay someone to write that software to have you connect with all your friends? No. It just landed from space, okay, in your lap. And you say, oh, this is fun. Well, yeah, nothing is free ever in this world. Another lesson, not only that predates the internet, is especially true in the internet. I think personal data there should be a big button that says, are you ready to sell us this information that in exchange for free use of our software? A big button. And that big button isn't there. If it is there at all, you got to dig. Oh, personal use, how are you giving it? And it's down there in the bottom, and they don't make a big point of that. So I think that's exploiting our enthusiasm for the brilliant software that has been written without being completely upfront about it. And that concerns me.
Thank you very much. That was insightful again. Thank you, Neil deGrasse Tyson. As a closing statement, what do you want people to remember Neil deGrasse Tyson for? Do you have any advice for those who continue to believe in what people would say is unimaginable? What should we expect from you in the coming months? And is there anything else we should know before we sign out?
Excellent, thanks. So I don't care if I'm remembered. I don't. When I'm dead, I've thought a lot about being dead, and being dead, it really won't matter to me. How you remember me, it won't. And in fact, even at being alive, I've only succeeded if I've taught as an educator. I've only succeeded, I believe. Yeah, something I believe that if I train you to think for yourself, then you go off and saying you shouldn't do this or you should do that, and they say, well, why do you do that? Because I've thought it through. I don't want them to. That's the answer I want them to give. I don't want them to say I'm saying this because Tyson said so. No, that's cult building. If all you can do is recite the words of someone else, you have not internalized the lessons and the messaging. Only when you internalize it do you then take ownership of it and then pass it on to others or pass it forward. I don't need it passed backwards. I don't need any favors coming back my way. And I've said this before, I know what I want on my tombstone. I want a quote from Horace Mann that says, be ashamed to die until you have scored some victory for humanity. So I think we should all carry some, by the way, there could be small victories. Did you raise your kids right? Excuse me, that's a big victory. But it could be a victory no one else is going to write about, all right? But it's a victory because you're promoting civil behavior, conscious behavior where they want to you want the world to be better off for you having lived in it. And that's a goal I think we should all have. Better off, not worse off. And do I think, so that's the part about being dead. What did I miss part of that question? So the future, I guess. What do I have to say and think about the future? I think interesting thing about hope is that it always brings up, I don't like the word hope because if you have hope, it means you have admitted you don't have control over the outcome. So for that reason, hope and prayer have very similar meaning for those who, I will pray. Well, why are you going to pray? Oh, because I want to summon spiritual forces to act for the outcome that I seek. So you just said you don't have actual physical control over what's happening. So you have to go spiritual on it. Or if you have hope, you're just sort of wishing that it will go your way. I would rather know enough about a situation to then influence it so that I don't have to hope and I don't have to pray. I don't want to stop people from hoping and praying, but I want to make sure that's not all you do. All right? Oh, I hope the hurricane doesn't level my town. Well, let's fund climate research so that we understand what's driving the hurricane and maybe tap the cyclonic energy of it to drive the power needs of the city that the hurricane would have leveled, and now you reduce it to a tropical storm. How about that? You need technological and scientifically literate people to engage those solutions.
Agreed.
Maybe some of the brilliant people that have visited us in the past, Marie Curie, Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, maybe they actually did come from the future. Maybe they did come from some other consciousness. So it's time to help the humans along. Here we go. Look at the monolith in 2001. That was sort of on hand when humans took giant leaps of evolutionary progress. The usage of tools, the monolith was there, into space, the monolith. So maybe we are being watched in the Matrix. And maybe someone is, and occasionally they need entertainment, so they'll stir the pot a little and throw in some spice, and to see how we deal with trauma. And sometimes I think about if something just goes haywire, the collapse of the market. That could be in some alien basement saying, let's see how they handle the collapse of the stock market. Okay, let's see how they handle a virus. No, not too well. Okay, maybe they'll learn something. So my hope is that whoever is calling these shots, they're just testing us, maybe. And if we don't succeed, we all die, and then their simulation ends. So my best hope is that they don't want the simulation to end, and so they want to see our future as much as we do.
Thank you for so much, deGrasse Tyson. That was very insightful. Thank you for speaking with the Borgs, and of course, welcome to The Matrix.